Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. Thank you for being here. Good morning, Jess.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Merry Friday.
So we'll go through some of the hot topics going on in Lake Havasu City, give you an update on what's going on, and then we'll take questions on anything that's on your mind, anything we talked about, or any questions or comments you might have afterwards. So first, we'll start with, we are just coming off of a whirlwind month that we celebrated our golden anniversary in Lake Havasu City. We had lots of different celebrations and ceremonies and a parade to commemorate our golden anniversary, 50 years since Robert P. McCulloch purchased the London Bridge, and it was dedicated here in Lake Havasu City. So we are really honored to be able to host the McCulloch family. We had Robert P. McCulloch's only surviving child, Barbara McCulloch, join us for the celebration. And all 6 of his grandchildren were here in Lake Havasu City over the weekend to celebrate all of the great things that bridge means to Lake Havasu City and what it's done for our community. So very excited for that. And Jess, I know you attended many of the events, as did I, and many of my colleagues on council. I don't know if you have any comments about what that meant for you.
It was fantastic. What a wonderful feeling for everybody to get together to celebrate, people coming from out of town back into Havasu to commemorate the event. One thing that stood out for me was at the gala dinner on that Saturday Eve. The grandkids and the daughter of Robert P. McCulloch were on stage, and they shared with the group about a box of letters that they had found, and they were digging through them literally as they're driving back from the Vegas airport, and they pulled out one letter, and it was Robert McCulloch's first indication, I think, to his wife, was writing a letter talking about how he just experienced this lake out in western Arizona. And how it would be a great location for testing his outboard motors, and talked a little bit about his first experience with Havasu. So that was special, especially hearing it from the grandkids.
Yeah, and it puts it all in perspective. So that letter was written in the 1940s, I believe?
I think so.
The 1940s. And today we might text or call or one of those things. But when RP or Robert P. McCulloch was on the road, there was none of that. And so you had to write letters, and they wrote letters back and forth, and they described there was just boxes and boxes of letters that they went through. And then on Sunday, this past Sunday, after we celebrated the bridge and honored the McCulloch family, we were able to honor our pioneers with the Freedom Bridge walkway underneath the London Bridge. A committee had put together that walkway and a dedication ceremony for the brick section for our pioneers. But it was so amazing to be able to hear the early stories of our citizens that were here before the bridge and also helped build the bridge and build this community. We had folks that were first generation, and I guess they'd be considered second generation, folks that were brought here, didn't have any other choice but to come with their parents back in those early days. But they talk about Havasu in such a magical way and what it meant to them, and they still have those deep feelings. So really a fantastic month, and I hope you all were able to take advantage of some of the events that occurred during the golden anniversary and were able to feel some of those same stories. This week we'll be celebrating our veterans. I thank all of our veterans that are in this room with us this morning and that live here in Lake Havasu City for your service to our great country, your selfless sacrifice. It does not go unnoticed. Lake Havasu City is the most patriotic city in America, and it's because of all of our veterans standing up for our country, and we really do appreciate that. We'll be having some celebrations this week in honor of that. Veterans Day is on Thursday, November 11th. We will have our Veterans Day Parade down McCulloch, so invite you all to come out and enjoy the Veterans Day Parade, followed by a ceremony at Wheeler Park to commemorate the day. So if you want to partake in all of those events, again, that's Thursday, November 11th. Since we last met, we had some discussion at the City Council about our utility rate study. So just going back a little bit in history of why the utility rate study even came to be, was back, again, before the bridge. The very first quasi-government that McCulloch stood up was the Irrigation and Drainage District in Lake Havasu City. And what that did is it created a mechanism to have a property tax on all properties in Lake Havasu City to help fund the water infrastructure for the very early parts of our city. When the residents of Lake Havasu City voted Lake Havasu City to incorporate in 1978, the IDD was set to dissolve. That was part of that action. However, the IDD had debt, and the debt was for some of those early infrastructure needs to create the water system. So they weren't able to dissolve the IDD till that debt expired. Councils long before us refinanced that debt multiple times in order to keep that mechanism for property tax, which equates to $5.7 million towards the water fund through the property tax bills. However, that debt is set to expire this next year, and so it will dissolve. And with that, so will the $5.7 million that is collected on property taxes. So every property owner in Lake Havasu City will see a property tax, will see that property tax removed from their bill. So a lot of people have said to me, property taxes are kind of hard to determine because a lot of it's based on valuation and assessed rate, and so you don't really know where all that's coming from. And so because of the rising values of our homes, people think it's just going to wash away. But that's not the case with the IDD. The IDD is a flat tax, if you will. Anything that's a half acre or under pays $134.44, and anything that's a half acre up to an acre pays $265. And then, of course, that's the rate per acre if you have multiple acres on your land. But that will simply just go away. It's starting June 30th of 2022. So because that was going away, we had to determine what were we going to do to fund the water system. $5.7 million is a lot of money, and we're charged with ensuring that we have a water system that provides clean, quality service to our residents. So we bring fresh water in, we take wastewater out, and we have to have a good system to do that. There are some cities that have made it in the news that have not invested in their infrastructure. So Flint, Michigan, to name one, that did not invest properly in their capital to ensure that they had quality drinking water and good wastewater services. But our plan took to look at our entire rate structure over a 10-year period, what type of capital improvements would be necessary to ensure the system is reliable and safe. It took into account the debt that we have to pay on our sewer debt, took on what our operating and maintenance costs are going to be, and looked at all of those different models on a cost for service basis. So it said, if I'm a restaurant, how much does it cost for us to be able to deliver that service to you, and how much does it cost for us to take the dirty water away? If you're a home, how much does that cost? If you're a hotel, how much does that cost? If you're an RV park, how much does that cost? And it went through all of the different categories because there's different costs based on the different uses. In a restaurant, they have a lot of grease, and so grease gummies up the system just as it would at your own home. So obviously we'd want those folks to pay for that and not our single-family homeowners to pay for that. So we had to take a look at all of these different pieces. The Water and Wastewater Fund is what we call an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund is something that is basically what goes into the fund pays for what's in the fund. So it's like a nonprofit system, if you will. So all of the monies that are collected for water and wastewater go to pay for the services of water and wastewater. So it's paid by the ratepayers. Ratepayers also happen to be taxpayers. So they also are citizens. But so just in an enterprise fund, a ratepayer is kind of the model that we're after. So those that are using the service pay for the service. And so there is some state statutes that preclude us from using a continuous general fund monies to help offset that. In certain circumstances it's allowed, but it's not a best practice to do going forward. The best practice is the rates pay for what the cost of the service is. So went through this whole process, lasted about 9 months of public hearings, public engagement, outreach to talk about what this looks like. One of the discussions was, all right, the IDD is going away, why don't we just overlap a new district on top of it? Well, state law changed since 1978 when we incorporated, and that was not allowed anymore. So there was some mechanisms, but it didn't provide the same revenue stream that was necessary that we currently have. So it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, was what the council discussion was. So then we went out to the community and talked about different scenarios and what those might look like, again, through public outreach, and came up with this cost for service model. The consultants did all of the numbers, and really their role in this whole thing is just calculating numbers. I mean, so they calculated numbers based on a philosophy that council and staff directed them to do. And again, that was the cost for service model. So fast forward, we vote to adopt the new utility rate study in the spring of 2021. Goes into effect July 1, but we bill in arrears. So we bill, so the month of July, your water usage gets billed in the month of August. And so in August, we start hearing phone calls from different segments of the system about some inaccuracies or issues with the utility bill. And so mostly our multifamily homeowners, so condos, apartment homes, those types of things, and folks that use swamp coolers in their business. So they might be an automobile repair shop, something along those lines. And so we took another look at it And we brought it back to council in our last meeting, and we reevaluated because the increases that the multifamily were seeing were significant because of their initial low base water or sewer fee. So they were paying $10.50 per unit prior to the utility rate study, and it jumped to $48.67. So they were sometimes seeing like 800% increases. There was some confusion. I'll speak just on my confusion about that. I knew that the percent increase from $10.50 to $48.67 percentage-wise, it's a big number, but it's $30. And so $30 over multiple units should be a wash. It was my misunderstanding that that was per unit. And so it was $30+ per unit, which can add up for complexes that are really more than 4 units. I mean, it starts to add up really, really quick. So brought it back to council. We had a really long discussion, debate, conversation about it. And in the end, the council voted to take a look at the multifamily dwellings, again, condos, apartment homes, and reevaluate what their water rates were for this year. We're still going to have some more conversations because there were some pieces of that that are unknown. So one is the revenue. What does that revenue look like? Because that's a big component of it, but we need some time to be able to understand what that revenue looks like before we make any further discussions. So next year, around this time, we'll have a discussion again about a path going forward about what that looks like. But that was what kind of the overall goal was of the utility rate studies, make sure we have an equitable system that all people are paying their fair share, one that is investing in the infrastructure to ensure that we can provide quality services, drinking water and wastewater services to the ratepayers within the enterprise fund. And so you were able to see the sausage being made at the last meeting. That's how it goes. There was multiple motions that were put on the table that failed. And so we finally got to, I believe it was motion 6, and we were able to come to some sort of a compromise. In my opinion, that's sometimes the best way that it works because everyone left the room like, okay, we got something done, not 100% happy. That means it's probably in the right direction of where we're going. So I know that was very lengthy and I covered a lot of stuff. I don't know if I missed anything, Jess, or your take.
Very good explanation, starting from the history and where we came from and why we're there too. And I think you mentioned the nonprofit, and as you were talking too, we call them these enterprise funds. But kind of an oxymoron. We were talking about an enterprise fund really means a nonprofit setup. So, but it's one of those things that we take for granted because we say these things so often. But we have an enterprise fund for water, an enterprise fund for sewer, and that means that any money coming in, any money going out has to stay contained within that fund. As you indicated, in the end, the goal here is that we need we identify the dollars that we need to operate a water system, and we identify the dollars we need to operate a sewer system over the course of like 5 to 10 years. And so we understand what those dollars are, so we want to make sure that we're providing the right infrastructure to the residents, and we can all take these services for granted, which we need to and should. And then how do we raise the dollars to pay for the system, and how do we make that equitable across the board and from the commercial categories to the multifamily categories to the single family categories. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of nuance. You hit on it briefly, but I did want to talk about the debt on the sewer side. We have when we see the sewer bills and they come in back and they say, well, that's pretty high. About 55%, roughly, 55% of that sewer bill that we're all paying is going to the debt payments that the city has from when we had at the time, and probably still is, I don't know, but at the time for sure, the largest wastewater project in the country. We retrofit this community with a sewer system after the homes were built. That cost a lot of money to go back and do that after the fact. And for those that were here, probably experienced their streets and their driveways and their yards being tore up as that process happened. It's a lot of flashbacks, just some bad memories there, huh? But in the end, we now have an operating sewer system that's operable and consistent and good health. We still have about $200 million in debt that the city owns on that investment that was made several years ago. It is a bond payment. There's some conversations that sometimes come out of the newspaper about hey, let's pay down that debt and so forth. But what we have, it's a bond obligation. So on the other side, if you buy a bond, a government secured bond, you're guaranteed an interest rate per year for X number of years, right? The government can't come in and say, okay, we're going to buy that bond from you and take it back from you. You're guaranteed that over the course of time. That's our obligation as a government, is to pay through 2045. We're paying on about $13 million per year through 2045 to meet that debt obligation from that investment that was made in the community several years ago. So it's just important to understand that. We start talking about the cost of the systems and so forth. Part of that, and a big portion of that on the sewer side, is that debt. I think back in with the leadership of Mayor Knudson and the city manager Charlie Cassens at the time, refinanced a portion of that debt. About $60 million of that debt was refinanced. From what I understand, it was a huge battle that took legislative action, including leadership from Senator Borelli, with how the funds were refinanced in a way that made sense to the community. So a lot of good things happened there in terms of refinancing that debt. We'll continue to look at certain options, but we have an obligation in terms of that debt. And I just kind of want to talk about it a little bit too, because we talk about the systems and so forth that we need to pay for, the vehicles and the hundreds of miles of lines and all the other things too. But we're also paying that sewer debt each and every year.
Yeah, when it comes to the debt, the conversation during that refi that Jess talks about was that it was generational. So because our community put in our sewer after we were already a city and already built, why is it fair for all of our current ratepayers or citizens or taxpayers to pay for the infrastructure for users that are going to be coming down the pike in 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And so by having that generational financing that goes out to 2045, everybody pays a fair share for that infrastructure, and it's not on the backs of today's citizens solely. So that was what that conversation was. So again, when a lot of people are like, oh, pay off the debt, you have extra money, pay off the debt, and that's why you don't pay off that debt, is so that everybody's paying their fair share, and it's not all on our shoulders to bear that burden. So that was the discussion we had, and that was kind of what happened last week. In that same meeting, which is very exciting, we also were able to vote on and adopt the next phase of our redundancy in our water system. So we have one rainy well right now, which provides basically all the fresh water for our community. That well has been in service for nearly 20 years, maybe about 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, so 20 years, and it has not been down once to do it. So I'm not an engineer or even purport to know any of this, but kind of what it is, it's a big straw that goes down this way, and then lots of straws go out this way, I think like 12, and it sucks all that water out, brings it up, and comes to our homes. And so that system needs some service, and if it were ever to have gone down, we would have no redundancy whatsoever. So we've been working on this project for about 5 years, I would say.
4 years, 5 years, yeah.
We've had to go through multiple steps. The first was we had to find a second well. And so we worked with a variety of partners at the state to get on their land to draw some exploratory wells. We were able to go on some of the land the city already owns and do some exploratory wells. And we were so fortunate that we found water on our own land. So it isn't going to cost taxpayers any additional money. We already own the land. It's already part of our infrastructure and facilities, but we now found water for that second well pump. And that will now give us redundancy in our fresh water system, which is so fantastic. It ensures that we do have quality water at all times for our citizens, and we can take down one or the other to do maintenance on the system. But we were able to go on the next phase of that. It was nearly $3 million was that next phase. So very expensive when it comes to these types of projects, but we'll be here for many generations to come. So I know you worked on it. Jess, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a big deal, and something we've been working on very hard over the last couple of years. We talk about redundancy in the water system. We did not have, as a city, a backup water supply for our residents. And in terms of all the water, about 80% of our water comes from the Rainy Well site that's located over on the island at LBB Park, that area that's over there. 80% of the community's water comes from that well. And the giant straw and the many straws that are out there, 20 years old. And fail is probably a harsh word, but we're seeing inconsistencies in some of those straws that go out this way. We're having to shut them down one by one because we're drawing too much sand into the system, and we can't have that. That disrupts the pumps and the rest of the distribution system, and we certainly don't want to have that in our homes, right? So whereas we're doing some things in terms of slowing down some of the generators and the pumps so that we're not sucking too much sand out and trying to get things. We need to shut it down, and we need to go in there and make some necessary repairs so that we can ensure that the investment that city made 20 years ago can continue for many, many more decades. But in the meantime, we need a backup water supply for our residents, and that's what we've been working hard on the last 4 years to make that happen. Council action at the last council meeting was the final step. It was a $3 million, $2.8 million investment into that project. We spent a little over $6 million in this project, but how important is it for us to be able to, if that well goes down, that we know we have other options? And lucky enough, we have one well site that's going to be over at our water treatment plant, which is great because we own the land, but that's less cost and less maintenance for any type of piping that needs to take place to deliver it to the water treatment plant. Another one was over at our public works yard over there as well too. So very exciting in terms of our ability to turn the corner and have a big sigh of relief in terms of that backup water supply.
Okay, we'll quit talking about water and wastewater, but let me first tell you one public service announcement on behalf of our wastewater people. Flushable wipes are not flushable. Yeah. And so they go into our system and they clog it up bad. And so if you've seen these gross, nasty ragamuffins, I guess you'd call it, come out of our system, it actually clogs up our system. It does backups and also costs taxpayers a lot of money to clean up. So flushable wipes, use them if you will, but throw them in the trash can. Don't throw them down the pipe. So moving on from water and wastewater. We also have another exciting project that's happening. McCulloch Boulevard from Acoma down to Smoke Tree is going to get repaved finally after nearly 50 years. It's also celebrating its golden anniversary with its way out. So we're going to get that road finally done with a mill and fill. It's going to happen this month. Actually right after the Veterans Day Parade, somewhere in that period. I'll let Jess talk about specifics there, but we'll be able to tear up all that asphalt, put new asphalt down. If you happen to be in the parade this weekend and walked the street, you'll notice the big, huge cracks that you had to make your way over. And so we're really excited to do it. It's going to be a disruption, and it's going to be painful while it's happening. But once it's done, it's going to be such a great improvement to that downtown corridor, not only for the vehicle traffic, but the pedestrian traffic. And we'll be able to have some of our great events this winter, nice, fresh asphalt that you don't feel like you're having to go off-road to go through. So you want to talk about specifics of timing and all of that? Yeah,
when you look at that road, it's like a spider web with all the crack seals and all the repairs and Band-Aids that the city's put on it over the years to extend the life as much as we can, but it's time to do something. So we're excited about having a new road, new asphalt, new material in that area. And the end result. But in the meantime, we got to make sure that we do this in a way that's not a disruption for our residents who go to the downtown, and certainly our business owners in that downtown area. So we're going to be meeting with the downtown businesses here next week and having conversations with them about timing and getting the communications and those things out. When we put the request for proposals out, and so we get the solicitation and bring the vendor on board. We identified that we wanted some night work and some things like that for them to be flexible, so that we're not just the 8 to 5 when it's busy in the downtown. We don't want them solely using that window of time for construction. So we'll be working with them on trying to make sure that gets done as smoothly as possible. It will be a disruption. We're talking about probably 10 to 15 days in terms of the actual construction timeline in the downtown. So we're trying to get in and get out as quickly as possible. We have several events that are out there, and we've looked at different windows of time, and people always say that's the worst time to do road construction. Whether we do it in the fall, it's the worst time, or whether we do it in the spring or the winter or the summer, it's the worst time to do road construction, and we agree. There's never a good time for us to close down a street and disrupt traffic and disrupt business. So we're going to do the best that we can in that regard, trying to also avoid some of the events that are coming up as well too.
Yeah, so while we're doing that road construction, just take a little extra time because Mesquite and Swanson are going to be a little bit busier while we're there. So just have some patience and let's make our way through it. But it's going to be a great improvement when it's all done. So we'll give an update about Riviera. We haven't talked about that in a while, but they are making a lot of progress out at Riviera. If you're a boater and have been on the shoreline, the wave attenuators are almost complete. Those are basically the pilings that are going to protect the marina from waves coming in. So they've been going through along the shoreline and putting those pieces together, and you can start to see what the water-based marina is going to look like. The first shipment of docks are going to arrive next week. So you'll start seeing those docks being installed over the month of December and into January. They're starting to go vertical, so the entry station, when you would first go into the marina area, the bathrooms, the marina store, they're all starting to go vertical, being built up. The fuel tanks are in, so it still has an anticipated date of spring opening, spring of 2022, to open that area. So that's very exciting. That'll help alleviate some of the traffic as people try to launch their boats and get onto the waterways. Will allow us to have another mainland launch facility, which is fantastic. Also back there is residential neighborhoods that are being built. In total, there will be 8 communities. They've already sold through community 1, 2, and 3. So all of those lots are sold, and they're in the process of different phases of permitting and those types of things. And then they're working on neighborhoods 4 and 5 right now. And when I say working, they're moving dirt, putting in roads, infrastructure, all of those types of things. Currently, there's 50 homes have already gone through design review on their HOAs, and about 15 permits have already been issued from Lake Havasu City for the building. So lots of work is going on out there. We will open up that roadway just as soon as the marina is open. With that creation of neighborhoods, there's tons of heavy equipment that are moving lots of earth. And so there's just a lot of equipment out there, and it's just no need for additional traffic to be out there when all these vehicles are moving. In fact, Jess and I went out on a tour a few months back, and they were using dynamite to blow up parts of the mountain. So not really a place where we need folks to be right now while they're doing that, but it is coming along. They're doing great work. The partnership with Arizona State Parks and the concession agreement is moving forward in a nice way. There have been lots and lots of bumps in the road, but the road looks like smooth sailing from here, and everything has been determined and figured out. But that's the update on what's happening out at Riviera. We've also talked in the past about Allo Communications. By way of reminder, Allo Communications is a new company that's coming to town that's going to offer fiber to the home or business. So that's fiber broadband services. They also will offer telephone services and cable television. So it'll increase competition within the market. Where competition comes, that means better service comes for our citizens and lower rates come for our citizens. So we're really excited about Allo. They're making a $50 million investment in Lake Havasu City to put the fiber in. And they're working on a pretty short order. So they anticipate to come in and start in first quarter of 2022. Their only holdup is they're waiting for the Arizona Corporation Commission approval. And so once they get that approval, they'll be able to move forward. But they're looking in 18 to 24 months to have the entire community with fiber. So they will augment our current services we already have. So we have other providers that are already in Lake Havasu City that include Suddenlink and Frontier and Wirefree. They all provide service levels and that make sense for different homes or businesses. Allo will help augment that and give, again, options for our citizens to be able to determine what's best for them and whatever their unique needs are when it comes to those types of services. So very excited. We would welcome other companies to come too. So our doors are open. Anyone else that would like to come join us in this broadband fight and invest in our community, we welcome you to do so. There's been a lot of discussion on the news media about grants and broadband grants and all of those types of things. Allo's coming to our community, not using any federal dollars for what their investment is in Lake Havasu City. So,
or local.
All local.
Yeah. Or no local money. No local dollars either.
Yeah. So they're not using any money. They're coming to do and invest all of their own private capital, which is, again, a great addition to our community. So the options will be there. They've already signed a lease for their storefront. They will have a storefront where citizens can go in. So that's moving together. They're doing their tenant improvements now. And they already have hired staff in this area. So very excited to have options again for our citizens going forward in the broadband arena.
The only thing they add there is that they communicated to us last week or so that we're going to start seeing some Allo pickup trucks and some Allo employees within the community here very shortly. They're going to be out kind of surveying, taking a look at the conditions of poles, and you might see them kind of walking through some easements and so forth around your neighborhood, but they're trying to assess the situation. So we'll see some other the trucks and there's some other employees out here in our neighborhoods in the next couple of days, I believe. And they're working through some issues in terms of like their state licensing. So they are a brand new provider in Arizona, and the state doesn't regulate internet. The state doesn't regulate video services, but they do regulate landline phones. And it's about a 6 to 8 month process for somebody to come into Arizona right now to get licensed to provide landline service in Arizona. These are old, archaic rules that are in place and so forth. Again, the state should be concerned about our internet service, right? And our video services to a certain degree as well, too, as far as making sure that there's quality service. But they're concerned about getting permitted for landline phones, which are important, especially when it comes to commercial businesses. So that's holding up a couple months of delays, but we're still on track for that 18 to 24 month time period before full build out is what they're communicating to us.
All right, we'll talk about ABC projects. Let's America's Best Community. It's been quite some time, but there's been some discussions, and there'll be some future discussions that are coming before council in the next couple of months. So we thought it would give an update on what that is. So for those that are new to our community or have a short memory, we'll talk about how we got here and what it's all about. In 2014, as the CEO of Frontier Communications was leaving, she was retiring, she wanted to leave a legacy in the company. And so she set aside $15 million to create America's Best Community competition to help economic development in rural communities across America. And Frontier Communications primarily serviced, at the time that she left, only rural communities across America. They've since had some other things happen, but that was what it was at this time. So she set those aside in trust, and then she ran this program post-retirement. And what it was is we were to go around and look at different economic development plans and ways to make rural communities stronger and more vibrant. And so Lake Havasu City was one of the competitors. There was 350 folks that went through phase one. Lake Havasu City made it through that. Then they dropped it down to the top 50. Lake Havasu City made it to that. They then went to the top 10. Lake Havasu City made it to that. And then Lake Havasu City made it into the top 3 and was a $2 million grand prize winner. And so what did we win? So there was 2 different things that were happening at the time. One, we were being fiercely competitive and we were going to win. And the second was we were driving an economic development plan that was titled Vision 2020. And so the Vision 2020 all started with an afternoon, or a whole day actually, that citizens from all walks of life spent a day at the gym at ASU. And it represented every civic organization, fraternal organization, economic development organization, education, private businesses, and citizens at large. Everybody came into the room and started having a discussion. We used an Arizona Town Hall, which I will give a pitch to Arizona Town Hall. If you ever see an event that's put on by Arizona Town Hall, I highly recommend you attend it. They do such amazing work, and before you know it, they were able to take 200 people's ideas, thoughts, and visions, and bring it down into 5 pillars of change for economic development in that day. It was unbelievable to see in front of our eyes. So it was economic development and job creation was pillar 1. Pillar 2 was education and talent supply. Pillar 3 was tourism and place development. Pillar 4 was water. And Pillar 5 was community engagement. And many of you in this room were involved in the different pillars. And the entire ABC team was 50 citizens of our community that worked in different aspects of those pillars to move it forward. Some really amazing work has been done through this Vision 2020 plan. Some things that you can visibly see, some things you can't visibly see. But one example is the Chamber of Commerce has a great apprenticeship program with our high school students to put them into different career pathways throughout our community. These are paid internships that they go into a field of their choice at the tune of like 30 students per semester per year. And they're able to do some career exploration. Fantastic stuff. The bond and override for the school district was part of these initiatives, which have led to the return of arts and music within our school system. It's also led to some of those beautiful fields you see at the high school and at Thunderbolt. It's also led to a lot of the security upgrades you see at schools these days, which it's unfortunate we have to do that, but I'm so glad that our students are going to school in a very safe environment. So that's another thing that happened out of these initiatives. The CTA program, the Certified Tourism Ambassador program, which I know many of you are a CTA in this room, was born out of this program. a downtown catalyst project, environmental learning center, a co-working location, F106, which is currently the co-working location. So lots of great things came through this plan. And the money was determined once we won the $2 million. We then came back using Arizona Town Hall to determine how the money would be spent. And the money was then allocated to three main priority projects. One was the Downtown Catalyst project, which is focused on the lot on Quario and McCulloch. The city purchased that lot for it to be a downtown gathering location. The second part would be the co-working location, which is basically a space that people go to and they can rent offices by the hour, by the day, by the month. But basically it's a startup incubator for businesses that are trying to start up before they invest money in a storefront or other technology to be able to take their business to the next level. And then the third was the Environmental Learning Center, which basically would be a learning center that would be all things water within our community. So like Havasu City would basically be leading, the leading agency or the leading community on water and water quality within our region. So those were the three projects that the citizens decided that the money should be allocated towards. The two items that we'll talk about today, well, all three, we'll talk about all three because they're all moving. So the two that the council will be talking about is the Downtown Catalyst project. We awarded monies from the award winnings, from the money that we won in the competition to Dig Studios, who's going to go out and do community engagement with all stakeholders. So the downtown businesses, the colleges, citizens, users, event organizers, all different people that are using this area to determine what we can do in this downtown gathering place. So some people will say, it already is a downtown gathering place, and why do anything? But if you've been to that park for any of the fairs or anything, there's lots of topography. I mean, so if you have to kind of get up and over. It's a grassy field that doesn't have walking paths. The parking makes it very difficult. If you are in a wheelchair, it's hard to get up some of those slopes. So we need to envision and see what is the right thing to do in that area. We don't know what the answer is, but we know who does, and that's our citizens and our users, and that's why we'll engage through the next short period on what is the best use of those funds to be able to create this downtown gathering place for everyone to go and use and enjoy. So you will be seeing outreach coming forward about that. Jess, I know you're kind of leading that effort from the city's perspective at this point. I don't know if you have anything to add on the downtown project. Yeah,
no, I think in the end, that's what we're talking about is how do we develop that area for a social gathering location, and that's the scope, and that's what we're charged with right now, and enhancing that existing space. Some confusion in a recent newspaper article out there talked about how there's going to be a building or these types of things and a business constructed, all that type of. That's not part of this project whatsoever. What we're talking about is enhancing that area. The idea right now, so far, and residents will say, hey, great idea, or change course, but the idea right now is to enhance that area for its existing use, which is it's being utilized for events and a place to gather in the downtown area. So when event organizers show up, we have drainage issues, there's no restroom facilities, there's no electrical plug-ins or bringing loud generators in and so forth. So how can we do some of those things that'll make the events better from that perspective, but also how do we beautify it in a way that makes it attractive for people to come down and spend time there. So that's what we're trying to accomplish at this point, and again, it'll be guided by the downtown businesses and by the residents.
And the next project that the council will be getting an update on is the Environmental Learning Center. This was another project that was led by Pillar 4, the water pillar. And they're going to come back. They've gone through and had architects and design firms put together what could be, what partners would be there, what funding partners might be, and what that might look like. Then to come to council, give us an update, and then hopefully they'll put together those partnerships to be able to move that project forward. That will be, is it the second meeting of November?
Yeah, is that the second?
23rd, I believe.
23rd, is it 23rd or 26th? Is that Tuesday? Yeah.
Yeah, so our second meeting of November the 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
Will be our council meeting on the 23rd. We'll have that update from Pillar 4 about what that environmental learning center is. The city's role in this is we're just one partner. So our partnership could look like a variety of different things, but we were assured that we wouldn't be a funding partner because there's these other users that might need to be able to use this type of a facility going forward. So stay tuned to our meeting on November 23rd, and we can learn more about what they have come up with and what plans are and what those look like. And then the third project, which the city is only involved in from a permitting process, is the nomadic co-working location in the downtown area. It's behind Sanchez Hawkins Jewelry Store at the Pima Wash area. It should start going vertical this next month. Is that the update we heard?
Yeah, there's a few things happening, and yeah, we have some. Yeah, I don't know the exact details. We were told that a lot of things are happening very quickly here. So.
Yeah, we hear lots of things, and so I'm like, did I hear that? Did I read that? Where did that information come from? But soon things are happening in that area, and we'll be able to visually see it really quickly. So that's, again, all of the monies that are being spent right now are monies that were won in the competition. They are being used as designated by the citizens when we came back from the competition with the money on how those uses were to be. But sometimes there needs to be some fiduciary, and that happened to be the city in certain circumstances. So city code requires city council to approve anything over $50,000, even though we're just being a facilitator of proceeds that were won by the community. So there gets to be some confusion of, wait, why is the city involved, and why is that money being spent, and who's doing that? Again, this is all being spent with monies from the winnings of the ABC competition. So we thought we'd give you an update on what that is, because it's been 6 or 7 years since we started this process. And now we're moving forward to actually now to see what things happen. But economic development plans take a lot of time. And what when we talk about the Downtown Catalyst Project, what a catalyst means is that once that area creates need for folks to go down there and be a part of it, then other neighboring businesses start to do things to their facades or to their business operations, or other businesses start to move in. For those of us that have been here 10 plus years, you can already see that down in the lower part of McCulloch. Before there really was not anything, and then one business did something, and then another business did something, and now another business, and now it's a really walkable area with lots of eateries, bars, pubs, shopping, and recreation right in that area, and that'll continue along the entire street as we continue to have these types of things move forward. So we're getting close to where it turns on to your part of the program, but we do have a few more updates. One is with the help of the Marine Corps League. They helped bring a part of the USS Arizona from Pearl Harbor to Lake Havasu City. We were able to receive the relic last winter, and now we're looking for a home that's going to be able to allow our citizens to pay tribute to the events that happened during Pearl Harbor, and one that is impactful enough for the significance of what that relic is. This year, in December 7th, on Pearl Harbor Day, it's the 75th year. And so it's a big deal. So we're finding out a way that we can get the relic on display to commemorate that activity, but also finding a permanent home. We're going to be meeting in the coming weeks with the Marine Corps League and other partners on what that might look like and what the location is and those types of things. I know you've been with me along the way with, we've been working on this for like 24 months from the time to get the relic, get approval to get the relic, get it shipped here, and now have it be here. Or if you have any thoughts on that, Jess?
Well, just special thanks to all the efforts. Bud Watts, Marine Corps League president, I believe is the proper title there, and all the members of the Marine Corps League for their work. Yeah, there were many emails, many requests just to get that relic shipped from Hawaii over to little Lake Havasu. I think there's maybe like 3 or 4 at max relics like this in the state of Arizona. So we were lucky enough to be one of the cities to receive this relic. It's large, it's big, and you can see the relic itself is a piece of the USS Arizona, and you can tell that when the explosions hit, that it bent. I believe it's the whole portion of the hull or that you see there. You can see that it's impactful when you look at it. You can see what's happening there. It's large, and so we were trying to find a place where we can store it respectfully and that our residents can look at it, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we preserve it and treat it with respect from that perspective. So we talked about a couple different locations, talked about how we can house it and preserve it, and so people can observe it as well. So we're going through all those conversations. We talked about underneath under the bridge and the channel area where the city owns there, but it's large. So it would really take up a lot of room and do different events that occur down there. It remains a possibility, but there's some issues there. We talked about LBB Park, where the different flags are established, and where we have our 911 ceremony over there too. That would be very impactful for that area. And we're looking at different ideas. But we'll be meeting with the Marine Corps League and looking for some of their thoughts and ideas. They might be doing like a fundraiser in terms of trying to find the ability for them to preserve that piece too. So.
And when Jess says large, it's about maybe 5 feet tall by 6 or 7 feet wide. So there's large and then there's large. So
yeah.
So it's big, but
sometimes you talk like a relic. It's not like this, but it's.
Yeah. So, again, December 7th we'll have some ceremony around that, and then find again its permanent home going forward. And then coming up, some additional discussions that we'll have. Our Planning and Zoning Commission has tackled a few issues, and they'll be coming forward to council. One is looking at how we do storage units. I wish we would have done this many years ago, but we're doing it now. And what it is basically we're hearing more volume about when you come into Lake Havasu City and you enter in with all of the storage units that you might see, and maybe prevent that from happening. And so we're trying to protect the remainder of the land along the Highway 95 frontage as you enter into our community by protecting where storage units can go and where they can't go. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission had a great conversation about that. It's moving forward to council, but the discussions that I've heard at the council level seem to support those same efforts to be able to do that. We also will have a zoning case come before council on Tuesday when we meet, and this comes to us with a recommendation of disapproval from the Planning and Zoning Commission for a U-Haul Center. Where you, right when you come into town, basically you see the Lake Havasu City sign, and then it would go there. You may have seen these on the other side of it.
On the north side.
On the north side, coming in by the airport. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You may have seen these in like big cities. They're like multiple-story indoor storage lockers, I guess you might call them, and then some yard storage and a variety of uses of storage. So we will have, again, that discussion for a zoning use change. The reason why it had to go through planning and zoning and the city council is that parcel of land is on a PD, a planned development. And so not always do city council get to nitpick on what happens in a particular zoning area, but this we do because it's in a PD, and they're asking to come out of the PD with certain restrictions. The only other time that we have the ability to do it is if they're asking for a variance. But otherwise, if they are purchased a parcel of land in a C2 zoning designation or a R1 or multifamily, they can do whatever it is within that classification that meets zoning code. It's only when they have a variance that they have to come to us or need a rezone. This one with the PDs is when we really get in and be very specific about what we want, how we want to see it, and what it's going to look like or not look like, depending on that conversation. So we'll be having those conversations on Tuesday. If you have any additional items to add there, Jess?
No, I think that's so Tuesday is the request coming from the U-Haul. Did go through the P&Z. Mr. Diaz is on the P&Z in the audience too. He'll probably have more details than we have at this specific time, but I know it was a 3-story, 45 feet height was original request. And again, it's that first parcel coming into Havasu on the right-hand side if you're traveling into Havasu from the north south in that area. So that's important. And then the bigger one will come at a future council meeting. I think it'll be the following one on the 23rd. Will be a conversation about the zoning for storage units. Right now, they're allowed in C2, the commercial 2 designation. They're allowed in the industrial zoning category, light industrial category, and then a mixed use zoning category. So those four. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that the removal of the construction of storage units out of the C2 category and left the other 3 categories preserved. And so that recommendation will go before council, make that determination on path forward.
All right, I think we're to the part of the program where we'll return over to you, but before we do that, I want to introduce my colleagues. So we have Councilmember David Lane with us. Good morning, David. Oh, 80th. Yeah, it's the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, my fact checker, so thank you. Yes, yes, thank you. Sorry about that. We also have Vice Mayor Jenny Koch with us this morning. Good morning. Councilmember Nancy Campbell. And Councilmember Cameron Moses. Yeah. Good morning, and thank you for being here. All right, Councilmember Lane is going to be walk around with a microphone, so anyone that has questions, if you could just wait for Councilmember Lane to come by, so those that are at home can hear what the question is.
This gentleman had his hand up first.
Oh, thank you. I have several questions related to the highway construction. Where will the millings on McCullough Boulevard be used? And then will there be an alternate route when 95 is being redone? And will any of this road construction, will any of these road construction projects overlap each other?
Yeah, so I'll talk about Highway 95, and then I'll turn over to Jess to talk about McCullough. So Highway 95, which we didn't talk about earlier, because it's moving forward for 2023. So 2023, under the leadership of Representative Biasucci, was able to get direct funding from the general fund in the state of Arizona to repave Highway 95 all the way from Sarah Park to I-40. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. So it has not been done for 20 years. By the time we do the project will be 22 years. And Highway 95, as you know, you would chatter your teeth in certain sections of that roadway. So with his leadership, we're so grateful for that money to be able to do Highway 95. Jess and his team are working with ADOT to get the bids and all of the pieces together to operationally just make that happen. So that will happen in phases in the year 2023. And then McCullough's happening just this month. So they won't overlap to answer that part of the question, but you want to talk about the millings and
Yeah,
McCullough?
sure, the millings on McCullough, the thought right now and the conversations we're having is to use them over at Dick Stamp Memorial Park. The city improved that area with the pickleball courts, and part of what our original intent there, our original wants were to construct the pickleball courts. And we had a donation from the association as part of that too. But the idea there was to do the courts, some curbing, some sidewalk, and the parking lot. We had to pull out some phases of that project because the bids came in too high, and we didn't want to spend more money than was budgeted for that project. So we have a dirt parking lot out there right now. We can take some of the millings on McCullough Avenue as we rip up the street. Take those millings and then the thought there is and spread them over that parking lot area, knock down some dust and make a nice little area there.
Yeah, and the last time we did some mill issues on Acoma, that's what created the parking lot on Mesquite. So with those millings, they later came back and did different improvements, but that at least got that parking lot up and going initially. So. We talk about like road construction stuff question.
too. So thankful. Please stop us when we start talking about words that nobody else knows, because we fall into that trap and it's hard. We try to check ourselves as best we can. But in the project in the downtown, normally we do a chip seal where you just kind of put something on top of the road. With the McCullough, we're actually gonna mill it. So we're gonna take a portion of that asphalt and scrape it back and remove it. So we're gonna go down deep, and then so we're gonna have material at that point. And what do you do with that old asphalt? That's called millings, and that makes for really nice parking lot areas and things like that. You can use that for. So we're going to scrape a portion of the road away and then put new asphalt down. It's a longer lasting approach. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Hello.
I just want to issue some kudos and a sincere thank you for addressing that water usage issue. My boss informed me that he's received a couple of refund checks, very complicated issue, and I believe in giving credit where credit is due. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, city council members who were involved in that. I'm sure it's not over, but right now, my tenants are breathing a sigh of relief. And on a personal note, I want to ask where I can get 2 garbage cans.
Perfect. Yeah.
One for where the city depot used to be. I see a lot of people come in there. Many of them are campers, and they just unload their trash there. There's a nice little nature trail there that I take my dog, and I carry a rake in the back of my pickup truck. Sometimes I even rake it out, but it becomes an eyesore. I understand that the homeless used to congregate there and it became a mess. It isn't that way anymore.
Where's the city's depot? Where specifically are you talking about?
The big parking lot where all the shuttles used to meet when we had a shuttle service.
Behind Mesquite?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we can take a look at that and see about a trash can. Where's the second trash can you were?
I think it might be BLM land out by Mesquite Bay.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. We can have those conversations and talk about additional trash services there. So, and then thank you for your leadership in coming to council to talk about how the water rates impacted you and your tenants. You were steadfast in that over several meetings, and we appreciate that. And thank you for coming in and thanking us for the hard work that we do. It's as you can see in the meeting, sometimes it's thankless, but it's great when we get feedback from citizens on our work. So thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
A couple of comments on that area out there by Mesquite Bay. I go out and clean the desert up all the time. I offered to clean that area up. City told me I couldn't take it to Dumpson because you can't dump off a county property or state property or somebody else's property at the dump. That's one thing there. Second thing, I'm glad he give you kudos, because I sure wouldn't on your water bill. You talk about fair, the homeowners are getting a shaft. When you compare them with multiple units, you just told me they got $10.38 for sewer. I've been paying 41 for a long time. Now I'm paying 52. I got some numbers here for you. I lost them. I got over past 15 months. I got $28 worth of water usage of water. My bill is $28. It cost me $438 to get rid of it. Now, how is that fair? I use less water than any apartment around. I can guarantee that. And I pay more in sewer bills. Why is that fair? Get the city to do something. I agree, it's a tough call, but these apartment owners are raking in money. You can't tell me their expenses have gone up as much as their rates have for rent. They're raking in money in their pockets. Why? When the homeowners are getting a shaft all the time on a sewer bill.
Thank you for your comments, and welcome to the game we call ping pong. So what that is that the rates were $10.50 initially in the old rate study. They now have increased to $18.67, and we'll again resume those conversations next year, as I previously mentioned in that discussion. So Mesquite Bay, about the cleanup, again, that's not in Lake Havasu City, but we can work with some of our partners about the cleanup of that area. But we don't mind anyone paying for trash. We just can't have, or excuse me, anyone picking up trash. We just can't have sole rangers go out and pick up trash and take it out to the landfill at no cost, because we don't know, is that happening for public cleanups or is that happening for personal cleanups of their garage? I've offered you, sir, multiple times to be part of our cleanup days, and you don't want to participate. So that's fair, but that's the full story there. So.
One second, sir.
Yeah,
we have people that are on camera that will require a microphone.
I'll hold it.
If you got somebody that wants to clean up the desert, if he registered with the city saying, I go out and clean the desert up, that's fine. He should be allowed to dump his trash. I've got pictures of my trailer full of trash cleaned in the desert. And the only reason I can dump it at BLM, they let me dump it there.
Good.
But if somebody homeowner comes in and says, hey, I want to dump free trash, he didn't clean it up in the desert, that's guaranteed. But if he's going to register with the city that's saying, yes, I cleaned the desert up, then you know where he got it from.
Sure. Yeah, so we've discussed this in the past, and it's a complicated issue when you're cleaning up county land and asking Lake Havasu City taxpayers to pay for it. So
And thanks for all you do for cleaning up that trash in those areas. Thank you so much for that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you give us an update on cost and timeline on the new courthouse?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll give a historical perspective, and then I'll turn over to Jess for the specifics. But Lake Havasu City has been in a consolidated court situation for many, many years. So a consolidated court is basically shared resources, shared buildings, shared staff, and those types of things. All the way since the courthouse was located on Acoma, we were consolidated. Then moved out to College Street, and now the courthouse is just busting at the seams. There's not a lot of room left. And so we are at the consolidated courthouse. What that means is the justice court is there, so justice of the peace. The superior court is there, and then the municipal court is there. So 3 courts are running out of that facility, and there are days that we have access to one courtroom for a part of a day. We don't even have access to a full courtroom at all times. And so we, as our community continues to grow, we have needs for court services on all levels. The only thing we're responsible for is the municipal court. And so we had to look at different alternatives. The presiding judge at the time deconsolidated the court system, which basically meant we got a divorce, but it was really amicable. We like each other still. We're still in the same building, but we now have a lease. And so we pay a lease out to the county to be in that building with direction that they would like us to vacate our lease and get out of that building so they can expand and use their courtroom the way they need to. So that kind of forced the city to address the courthouse and find a new location. We looked at a variety of different things. So we looked at the time we had some vacant, large big box stores that were vacant. We looked at maybe leasing or buying one of those and see if that makes sense. Since that happened, all of those buildings have been sold or leased or are now in use for a commercial aspect, which is fantastic for our citizens. Or we also looked at building. We looked at new construction here on this campus. We have land here at City Hall, which makes a lot of sense because our city attorney's office and our prosecutor is located here at City Hall, so they wouldn't have to go across town all the time for court hearings and those types of things. We can use some shared resources like conference rooms and office space that might have some cost savings. And then we looked at purchasing other buildings. So last year, an opportunity came available to purchase 92 Acoma, which is located just adjacent to the City Hall complex. And it has 23,000 square feet, and it's pretty much a shell of a building. It was formerly used as a fitness facility, and so it's the walls that are there are just shelled, if you will. So we can go in there and really do a purpose-built courtroom for our community. Great synergy with shared parking lots, shared conference rooms, shared resources on staff. So the cost savings will be significant from that standpoint. And then the cost to purchase the building and renovate it is about equal to or less than what we had budgeted in our 5-year CIP or our capital improvement plan. So in our capital improvement plan, we had monies already allocated in that plan for this courthouse, and with this type of an arrangement, by buying the building and renovating it, we'll be able to live within that budget. So that's what the need is for the courts. And then if you talk to Judge Kalali, who is our city magistrate, he currently runs a few treatment courts. So we have a youth court, we have a veterans treatment court, which is an award-winning court, but there are some other treatment courts that we can incorporate into the operation that really would help some of our citizens as they find themselves in trouble or working with the court system for whatever reason it may be, but we need space to be able to do those. What the good news is about treatment courts is the recidivism rate is so much less in a treatment court than it is in general court population. Recidivism rate is repeat offenders, basically. So in our veterans treatment court, it's 8% or less is the recidivism rate. In general, it's in the 70s, 70% repeat offenders, which means we as taxpayers are paying for that. Some of their fines are paying for it as well, but we're paying for that. So treatment court is advantageous in certain situations, and this new courthouse will allow us the opportunity to have the discussion to do that. So right now we don't even have the opportunity to have the discussion because we don't have the room, even if we wanted to do it. So I'm not saying that's the direction we're going or that's where we can go, but we can't even talk about it with the community if that's the right direction for us to go, because it's not even an option for us until we get into a new courthouse. And you want to talk about timing and operation, how that's going to work?
Yeah, sure, and I can talk about it a little bit too. Some of the initial conversations we had at the county back when this all started too is to maybe invest into that existing courthouse and expand that footprint. At the time, it was something that the county wasn't, didn't like the idea of it at that time. So then we started pursuing the options in terms of another facility. When Kmart became vacant, people were saying, "Hey, we can move the court over there." So there was a conversation at one time about looking at different properties within the community, and then the opportunity for 92 Acoma came up, which again expands the current city hall complex and allows for the employees and those that are coming to the PD and need a court visit and a PD visit and a city hall visit. All that can happen on one campus rather than driving throughout the community. At the time of the purchase of 92 Acoma, and within the CIP, we had $7.5 million was identified for the construction of a brand new courthouse, and so we looked at that, and so that's still kind of the plan of that or less is the target there for the expense of the courthouse. City paid about $3 million for the purchase of that building. So then the renovations we're looking at would to get to that point would get us up to or less than that amount. Some of the what we had within the CIP, and let me explain a little bit of the process too in terms of like how the CIP works and so forth. So we have a number where we think it's the courthouse is going to cost. And then we start looking at putting numbers in our budget. And some of those numbers that are in the budget is what we're going to expend over the course of 12 months, not necessarily, or definitely not what the cost is going to be for the total completion of that project. And as a city, we're put in kind of a bad situation or a disadvantage in terms of our ability to collect bids anyways, is probably a better way of saying that. When you put on your website how much money you're willing to spend for a project, and then you go out and ask the contractors and the architects and the construction folks, how much would it cost for us to do that? For some reason, it always comes back at the number you have on your website. So we're trying to do our best to get market numbers from the folks that are bidding on these projects. So that's important. So we've identified some dollars for the project, 1 year dollars. But we're also trying to take in consideration that we want to make sure that we're getting market dollars and not showing our hand. Can you imagine playing poker with showing your cards to everybody? That's sometimes what we do when we're bidding out projects. So in the meantime, we've reached out and we've engaged in, we put out another solicitation to bring some construction folks to the table. So we think it's important that the architects that are already on the project, we want to put them in the same room with the construction firm that'll be working on the project, so we can look at some solid numbers and a solid path forward. So that's the process right now. We just closed that bid this week. We got 6 bids in terms of what that looks like. So that's a good number. So we like to see competition come in, and options are a good thing for the city. So and that approach goes from a design build, for those that want to know, the design build process to a construction management at risk process or CMAR approach. Is that helpful?
That was a really long answer to your question, but there's lots of background to it.
Yeah.
So thank you for the question. 5 words for half an hour. Yes. Yeah. So, Bonnie.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll come back to you in a second, sir. Yeah. Good morning.
Thank you. I have 2 questions for you now as a result of hearing everybody else's questions. My first question is going to be, for the Highway 95 repaving project, could you please consider figuring out how to make the multi-lane use, the lane that stops at where does it stop? Palo Verde North, to go on to the mall, to continue, since you're going to have all that construction going on, 2 things at the same time in that area might be advisable. Just thought process there. I'd like to throw that out. And then second question is, how does the city decide what repairs are a priority? I recently fell on a sidewalk, still sore, and so it just kind of made me curious as to how you decide which repair is a priority.
Good. Thank you for the questions, Bonnie. So for those of you that don't use the multi-use path, there is a multi-use path that goes along Highway 95 for bicyclists or runners or walkers. and it doesn't go along the entire corridor of 95. Before I get too far into this, 95 is Arizona Department of Transportation Highway 95. So it's their money and it's state money that we work with their partners. So sometimes you see, well, all the time you see trash along Highway 95 these days. We're trying to get a handle on it. Where we're having to help supplement what ADOT's doing to be able to remove some of that trash along the highway. But we have to work with the partners. It's basically their land. They own all of that. So again, with Representative Biasucci's leadership, we got the money for the highway. We're hopeful that we can have that there'll be additional monies left over for some improvements, which would include potentially the multi-use path, maybe some traffic
Medians?
medians, like to help manage some traffic. We've had some pretty fatal head-on collisions on Highway 95 on the way to the mall, so we can do some things to help for some safety in that area. And so those conversations are in the works about that multi-use path. Just from knowing the topography of that area, leaving from where it ends now on Kiowa, the topography starts getting really, really difficult with wash beds that take you out to the mall. So if any of our off-roaders or have been out in that area, it's very, very difficult. But great conversations to have, and that's why we have these types of outreaches, is so that when Jess and his team are in those meetings, they can have those discussions. And then to determine what repairs are a priority in Lake Havasu City, anything that's not operating right is a priority. But it's a big city with lots of miles of roadways and sidewalks and infrastructure, and so we sometimes rely on citizens to let us know what it is. We have a program that we manage all of the infrastructure in Lake Havasu City from a capital standpoint. So we know when we're going to replace pipes or pumps or well stations or any of those types of things based on a program that Jess and his team manage. But if a rising sidewalk comes in that creates an area, that's something we're going to rely on a citizen to do. We do have a company that does come out, believe it or not, there are companies that do this, and they measure sidewalk depths, and then you might see it in some of our parks. They use like a blue chalk, and they write what the number is, and then we come back later and saw it down, or buff it down, I guess what you call it.
Grind it.
Yeah, grind it. Yeah, good term. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we do go through that. There are companies that do that. Just, I mean, that's completely in your wheelhouse. I don't know if you have any additional feedback on the repairs.
Yeah, no, like you said, we rely on our citizens to a great degree, and we have the Havasu Now app that's out there. We can take a picture and show the location, and we respond to those as quickly as we can. In addition to that, we get out there in the community, and as our staff sees them, we see issues, and we're gonna fix them. And then we have solicited and we have utilized some services of some companies that come in, and we'll do an assessment and identify how many cracks or different tripping hazards might be out there. And so we have a very, very long list, and we just got some equipment in our Parks and Rec department to grind down some of those areas. But if you know of something, same within our roadways or our sidewalks or our curbs. Is there trash out in the wash, whatever else too? We rely a lot on the residents to help us out in terms of seeing something, and we'll respond.
Thank you.
Two quick questions. Will the water you take with the new water wells, will that come from the Colorado River allocation?
Yeah, so we, in Lake Havasu City, all of our water comes directly from our allocation in Colorado River water. We have those water entitlements that we've had very forward-thinking councils and citizens in the past to ensure that we do have water entitlements, and that'll come directly from that.
And we're not using any more water.
No.
We're just using less water over here and more water. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's the same, residents still demand the same levels of, or demand for water. We just want to make sure that we're pulling it from two sources, not just one.
Yeah. And you said that the lease has been signed for the new broadband office. Where is that?
It's located by Planet Fitness. So it's 10,000 square feet next to Planet Fitness. There's a vacant building in that area.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Thank you for doing this on a monthly basis. So I know my name was mentioned earlier on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I just want to do a little more detail on this U-Haul, as Jess mentioned. So I know a lot of people don't get a chance to maybe come to the city council meeting. It's going to be next week, but you do have the opportunity to, write an email and send it into the city clerk, and she'll read those before the meeting. But a little bit more detail is it's currently it's a 10-acre parcel out there by Walmart on the north side. It's like a pizza pie shaped lot, and U-Haul, based in Phoenix, wants to build a huge facility out there. It's currently zoned as a 20-foot height, and they wanted a variance to make it a 45-foot height. So if you guys drive in, and we all do, we drive into our beautiful town here, and as soon as you see that lake, right past that Lake Havasu sign, you see that lake and you see the mountains, and you go, oh, I'm home, there's the lake, it's beautiful, I'm back home. Well, that would all be blocked by this 45-foot U-Haul. And I have no issue with U-Haul, but I'm not speaking for the entire Planning and Zoning Commission, but we felt that they want to build completely enclosed storage. They want to build open covered storage. They want to build open uncovered storage. They're going to have 2-story, 45-foot with little teeny closet type store, and it's going to be a complete utilization of that, every piece of that 10 acres. And we just felt that coming into Havasu, it's going to be kind of an eyesore eventually down the road. You'll see trucks out there, U-Haul trucks and trailers, and it wasn't the right fit for, especially when you have these beautiful homes being built in Havasu inside the town, but also at the Riviera and the foothills. That kind of piece of prime real estate should probably be used for more type of a more innovative retail, maybe some restaurants or some kind of shopping, something that's more inducive to a resort community like Lake Havasu. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Sir, yes. Councilmember Lane, we'll get you the microphone.
This is just a test. See if we have a lift pump for the sewer on our street, and I can't complain about the service. But I see these new trucks, pumper trucks, and that come just about weekly and so on. I don't know, they pump it down instead. Takes a lot of service to keep those lift station going. How much does it cost to do that?
Yeah,
I'm just kind of, roughly. I have no complaints. I just kind of.
Yeah, if I can, going back to the comment, so timely, sir, to repeat this public service announcement, please do not flush flushable wipes. They're not flushable. They're going into those lift stations in those areas and pulling out the rags and other debris that collects with our pumps. That's what's happening there. So it's all the different debris that collects that clogs the pumps and whatever else too, and they're going on to all of our lift stations on a month-to-month basis with those vac trucks that you see that are out there. So and by spending my staff time to go out there and to remove that debris and those flushable wipes and other debris from those lift stations, saves us money in terms of the replacement for those pumps. We're extending the life of those pumps, which can be $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 to replace. And so that's exactly what's happening out there. So it's an expense, but it's a maintenance expense that allows us to extend the life of those pumps.
Okay, hang on a minute.
Oh, that's good. That they could have gotten right away to go down a wash and then over to Cisco, where the area is. I hear a lot of excuses, but I don't know factual why they didn't do that. So, but anyway, seems like sometimes you can review an area and you can save money in the long run.
Absolutely, we're always doing that, and we have engineers that look at it to make sure we're doing it the right way the first time, and then if there's a better way of doing things, we'd love to hear from you in terms of what that looks like. So if there's a better way of doing something, we're all about that.
And we do track if there's multiple issues in one area. We understand, and then we start knocking on doors to see who's flushing the flushable wipes. Just kidding, but we do monitor in certain areas, and if there is an issue, we increase pump size or change around what it might look like. But yeah.
Just a suggestion, maybe as city mayor and city council, maybe you can even talk to every city in America. write letters to the manufacturer companies and tell them to take the term flushable off the wipes.
Yes.
That would be nice.
That would be very nice, yes. They're not flushable, and so thank you for that. All right, we are
Mr.
coming.
Mayor?
Oh, yes.
If I may do a public service announcement.
Please.
Because we've had a lot of talk here today about trash along the highway. So tomorrow, Kiwanis of Lake Havasu is hosting a trash pickup day, along with the Key Club kids from our local high school. They will be meeting tomorrow in front of Staples at 8:30 in the morning. If you're driving in the area, give them a honk or a wave, because it'll be all the kids out there picking up trash along our highway. You'll see them wearing the little green vests. And if anybody out there wants to come out and pick up trash along the highway, I'll be out there. So come on out and pick up trash with us.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. All right, our time this morning is coming to a close, so thank you all for joining us. But next month we have a really special coffee with the mayor and city manager. The city manager is not going to be there, but we're going to have the chiefs.
That's why it's so special?
Yeah. No, okay, it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs
okay.
make it special. So it'll be coffee with the mayor and the police chief, Dan Doyle, and fire chief, Pete Palafis will be joining me. So it'll be coffee with the mayor and the chiefs. And we'll give an update on public safety and what we're doing in paramedicine and kind of talk about everything public safety related in our next coffee. I don't really know where it's at, so stay tuned. Is it here?
Are we going to do it here?
We'll just do it here, right
Okay.
here. Back
Yeah,
here,
there you
same
go.
here. We're comfortable in here, right? Yeah, the cameras all work good and the sound's good, so we'll be here next December.
That would be the 3rd, right? Yeah, December 3rd, Friday, December 3rd, 8:30 here at the council chambers.
Yeah, and as always, thank you for the honor of being able to serve you as mayor. If you have any questions, I'll be around afterwards. Thank you for engaging with our community and being a part of what makes this community so special. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.